them notes. Vocab review. What method of estimation compares a digit's value to 5? What method of estimation compares a digit's value to 5? Brandon? Rounding, exactly. So in rounding, if a number is less than 5, we less than 5, round down. If it's 5 or more, we round up. Exactly. So that is called rounding. Round each number to the underlined place. In number 2, if I have the 7 underlined in the tens place, is the 2 in the ones place going to change that? No. So what would 72 round to? 70. Good. Number 3, 108. The tens place is rounded, or is underlined. Is the 8 in the ones place going to change that?
Yes.
So what's my new answer going to become?
110.
110. Number 4, 149. The 1 is underlined in the hundreds. What's that going to round to? 100. We're closer to 100 than we are 200, correct?
Yeah.
So it goes to 100. And in number 5, what's that going to round to? Number 5, what will that round to? Everybody.
3,200.
3,200. Good. The 6 is going to change the 9 to a 10, which makes it a 0 in the tens place, which means the 1 has to become a 2 because of the carrying, and the 3 is going to stay in its own place. So 3,200. Questions on rounding? All right. Into your notes. Remember, when you are rounding, round all your numbers to the same place value. Your directions sometimes will be very specific as to where you're supposed to round, other times it will not. But if you're given an option, you're either going to round everything to the ones, everything to the tens, maybe round everything. We usually don't round things to the tenths when we're rounding or estimating and adding and subtracting. Most of the time we're going to round to the ones place or the tens place or even the hundreds place. Okay? Notice I said hundreds, not behind the decimal point. So in your directions it says to round to a whole number. In our directions it wants us to round to a whole number. So 3 and 26 thousandths will round to 3. Let's review the definition of a whole number real quick. Does anybody remember what the definition of a whole number is? There's no decimals, there's no fraction, right. So do you remember what a counting number is? What's a counting number start with? If I'm just going to count, what number do I start with? Everybody. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A whole number, there's only one difference, remember? What's that difference? Whole numbers start at 0, exactly. So anytime we're rounding to a whole number, it's going to be numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, continuing in that sequence. So what's 14 and 7/10 going to round to? 15, because the 7 in the tenths place is going to change that 4 to a 5, so it becomes 15. Okay, what about 1 and 38/100ths? What's that going to round to? 1. The 3 is not going to change that 1 in the ones place. So now, what is 3 plus 15 plus 1?
19.
We have an estimated answer of about 19. Next example, 84/100ths plus 2 plus 3 and 32/100ths. What's 84/100ths going to round to? Yeah, we're close to having a full dollar there, correct? Rather than having $0. Do I have to do any rounding with 2.0?
No.
Nope, we're just going to call it 2. And 3 and 32/100ths is going to become
3.
just 3. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 is about 6 for an estimated answer. Next, I have a typo. Can you change in our blanks those to subtraction signs, please? Our questions say subtraction, so we have to make sure we subtract in our estimate. So 46 and 2/10. Again, our directions said to go to the nearest whole number, correct? So 46 and 2/10 rounded to the nearest whole number would be what number?
46.
46. 24 and 28 to the nearest whole number would be?
24.
Now truly, if I were doing this and I got to choose, I'd go to the tens place in both of those. Because wouldn't it be easier to say 50 minus 20?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I got to choose, that's what I would do. But my directions were specific, and they said to go to the ones place, or to the nearest whole number. So now, what is 46 minus 24? I'm sorry?
22.
Everybody agree? 22?
No.
So 40 minus 20 is 20, and 6 minus 4 is 22, approximately. Example 4, 76 and 8/10. Again, we were told to go to the nearest whole number, so 76 and 8/10 is going to round to 77. This 8 is going to change the 6 to a 7. 47 and 8/100 is going to round to 47. Now 77 minus 47 is about 30. Questions there? Again, given my choice, I would have made these both 80 and 50. I would have made it 80 and 50. Wouldn't we have gotten the same estimate? Going to the tens place? We sure would have. Okay, so your book has something called front end estimation. Front end estimation. Fill in those blanks. Your name, front end estimation, is already telling you what to do. So the front says to add together the numbers in front of the decimal point. The end part says to look behind the back side, so the numbers behind the decimal, and see if you can put some numbers together that are close to a full or whole number, close to like $1, for example. Okay, now that maybe sounds a little confusing, but let's go through and I'll show you what I mean. So we're going to do the front part. We're going to add the ones place in all of these. We're going to add the ones place first. So what is 3 plus 6? 9 plus 9
18.
plus 3, 21. So that was adding the front of each of those numbers. Now we're going to add the end to each of those. Look at 98/100. Is it 98/100 close to having a whole number of 1? Okay, so do the same thing in your notes that I just did. You're close to having the whole number of 1 there. Now, if you put 49/100 and 47/100 together, are you close to another dollar or another whole number? They're both close to about 50 cents, correct? So if we put the two of them together, and even with that 8/100 in there, it all gets a little bit closer even yet to 1. So the end part, we had almost $1 here and almost $1 here, so that'd be a total of an extra 2 whole numbers. And now you add those together to finish your answer. What's 21 plus 2?
23.
Is about 23. Weird, right? Different, but it still works. Okay, so let's use front end estimation here. Again, front, add those front numbers. Add those front numbers together. What's 4 plus 5?
9.
Plus 6?
15.
15 plus 8? 23. Now, the ends. What is 99/100 really close to on its own?
1.
It's already close to about 1. What else could we do? 45 and 45 would make about another 1. Do we have to do anything with that 200s? No, that's awfully close to nothing. So now this 1 plus this 1 is about 2. So 23 plus 2 is about 25 for an estimate. Okay, still doing the same thing. Still using front end estimation. Add your fronts. What is 4 plus 5? Add the back sides. Or estimate the back sides. 8/10 and 9/100. Are you close to about 1? Yeah, you are. And you could put both of them together and say you're about out close to 1. So 9 plus 1 is about 10. You do number 4. So you practice number 4. What's 14 plus 5? 19. If you put these two together, do you get about 1? You get slightly more than 1, correct? So 19 plus 1 would be about 20. Sometimes they would even say that 78/100 is close to 1 and 63/100 is close to another one. And so sometimes they'll say, well, that's close to an extra 2. So you just have to know, are you high or are you low when you're making your estimate? All right, actually adding decimals. What's the first thing you have to do when you add decimals? You have to line up the decimals. We need to make sure that the ones is getting added to the ones place, and the tenths is added to the tenths, the hundredths is added to the hundredths, so on and so forth. So then add, as you would with whole numbers, you may have to write zeros in there. You might have to write in zeros. If one number behind the decimal point, another one goes 2 or 3, you're gonna have to put zeros in there. For example, 9 and 8/10 and 2 and 12/100 would have been the original question, correct? But when I rewrite it, because there's 2 numbers behind the 12/100, I have to make sure I have 2 numbers behind the decimal point in 9 and 8/10. So now, ones places are lined up, decimals are lined up, tenths and hundredths are lined up. What is 0 plus 2?
2.
What's 8 plus 1?
9.
Bring down the decimal point. What's 9 plus 2?
11.
11. So 11 and 92/100. Questions? Okay, let's go to subtracting decimals. Line up the,
Decimals.
still have to line up the decimals, just like you do with adding. Then subtract as you would with whole numbers. You may have to write blank and borrow. You might have to write zeros and borrow. And don't forget to bring down the decimal point. So again, this question would have been 8 minus 1 and 65/100. Guess what questions kids oftentimes get wrong? The ones just like this. Can I have nothing and take 5 away?
No.
No, you can't. I cannot have 0 brownies and you try and steal 5 brownies from me. If I don't have brownies in my house, you can't steal them, right? So you have to make sure that you are doing some borrowing. So I have to go next door. Can I borrow from the 0 next door in the tens place? No. Can I borrow from the 8? Yes. Now I'm going to show you how I like to write these. And this is probably going to look different than what you did in elementary school. When I borrow from the 8 and I make that a 7, to make that one a 10, I just put a 1 right there. And now I cross that off and make it a 9. And then I put a 1 in front of that to make it a 10. I don't care if you write it the way you did in elementary school or if you do it my way, as long as you understand the borrowing concept. Okay? Now, what is 10 minus 5?
5.
And what is 9 minus 6?
3.
Bring down your decimal point. What's 7 minus 1? 6. Yes. I wouldn't purposely misspell something. But yes, if your word ends in a 0 to make it plural, you have to add ES. Or if it ends in an O, you have to add ES, not a 0. All right, adding. So we have 3 numbers that are being added together at the top of your next page. We have 6 and 8/10, 4 and 65/100, and 2 and 125,000. When you line those up, make sure your ones column is lined up in each one of those, your decimals are lined up, and your tenths are lined up. You should be writing them down in the order they are given to you in the question. Do not change the order of them. Now, 1 and 25/100 had how many numbers behind the decimal point? 3. Shouldn't they all then have 3 numbers behind the decimal point? So what can I add behind each of them?
0.
So I'm going to have to add 2 zeros to 6 and 8/10 and 1 0 to 4 and 65/100. Add your zeros. Go ahead and add. 0 plus 0 plus 5.
5.
0 plus 5 plus 2.
7.
8 plus 6
14.
plus 1.
15.
Put your decimal and carry a 1. 6 plus 4
10.
plus 1.
11.
11 plus 2 more.
13.
So 13 and 575 thousandths should be my correct answer. Next one. 84/100 plus 2 plus 3 and 32/100. Write those in your notes. Make sure you're lining up decimal points. Behind the decimal in 2, make sure you have 2 zeros. Add 4 plus 0 plus 2.
6.
8 plus 0 plus 3.
11.
Put your decimal and carry your 1. 1 plus 2
3.
and 3 plus 3.
6.
6 and 16/100 is my answer. Doing good so far? Okay, another practice with front-end estimation. A lemonade costs $1.79, sodas or pop are $1.29, and water is $1.49. Use front-end estimation to estimate the total cost of buying one of each drink. So in the first one, step 1, add your front together. What's 1 plus 1 plus 1?
3.
So you have about $3. Go to the back side. If you put 79 cents and 29 cents together, that's about another 1. $1.49. Is 49 cents close to another $1? No, we're actually closer to $0 than we are to 1 there. So 1 plus nothing is 1. 3 plus 1 is 4. So kids oftentimes don't have a problem with adding decimals, it's subtracting decimals. So let's do a couple practice problems with the subtracting. Again, do not change the order that you are writing these down. If it is 16 minus 8 and 79/100, make sure 16 is on top. What also do you have to put behind the 16?
2 zeros.
A decimal point and 2 zeros. So it's 16 decimal point 00. Now again, when it comes to subtracting, can you have nothing and take 9 away from it? No, you cannot. You need to borrow. Can you borrow from the 0 in the tens place? Can you borrow from the 6 in the ones place? So that 6 gets crossed off and it becomes a 5. The 0 in the tens place becomes a 10. Now you can borrow from it, make that a 9, and the hundredths place becomes a 10. Now, what's 10 minus 9? 1. What's 9 minus 7?
2.
Bring down your decimal point. Can you have 5 and take away 8?
No.
No. Cross that off, make it a 0. 5 becomes
15.
15. And 15 minus 8 is
7.
7. You check your work. Go ahead and start writing the next one. I want to see if you're setting up the next one correctly. So several of you are almost done with that question, which is great. We're going to go through it and see if you did it correctly for you to double check your work. Can I have nothing and take 4 away? No, so in this case, I have to go a long ways to do some borrowing. So my 1 in the hundredths has to become a 0. Tens, borrow, borrow, borrow. So it looks like that. What's 10 minus 4?
6.
9 minus 8.
1.
Bring down my decimal. 9 minus 2.
7.
9 minus 1.
8.
And 0 minus nothing would just be 87 1600ths. Okay, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and do the next one. Make sure you have filled a 0 into the hundredths place. So if you borrow from the 4, it becomes a 3. Make sure your 0 becomes a 10. What's 10 minus 8?
2.
Can I have 3 minus 9?
No.
No, so I have to borrow again. 3 becomes a 2. The 3 above becomes 13. Now 13 minus 9 is
4.
4. Bring down the decimal point. 3 minus 1 is
1.
2. Nope, it's 2 minus 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ah, I can't read my own handwriting. That would be a problem. 1 in 42 hundredths. Next one, again, asks us to use front-end estimation for the total cost of 1 small popcorn and 2 large popcorns. According to our table here, or our chart, how much is 1 small popcorn? Okay, so it asks for 1 small and 2 large. How much are large popcorns? It's in your,
It's right. It's
$8.
it says $9.08. So, using front-end estimation, add the 3, the 9, and the 9. What's 9 plus 9?
18.
Plus 3.
21.
Behind the decimal point, 98 hundredths is close to 1. Do I have to worry about the 8 hundredths in those?
No.
No. So 21 plus 1 is about? Make sure you put your dollar sign because it asks you to find money. It's going to cost me about $22 if that's what I purchase at the movie theater. The last one. Use the graph at the right. How much greater is the women's record discus throw than the men's throw? So, first of all, it shows that the women are throwing further than the men. The women's discus is smaller than the men's discus is. And the men's discus is not only wider in diameter, but it's also heavier. So it should make sense that the women would throw further than the men because it's proportionate to their size. Okay? So, the women is at 76 8/10. Oh, thank you. 76 8/10. and the men is 74 800ths. Notice it asked how much further, so isn't that actually a subtraction question? So we have to take and subtract those two numbers. I'm going to write them vertically to subtract. Doesn't matter where you write it in your notes. Can you have 0 and take 8 away?
No.
No, you can't. So you need to borrow from next door. 8 becomes a 7. 0 becomes 10. 10 minus 8. 7 minus nothing. Bring down the decimal. 6 minus 4. And 7 minus 7 is 0. So 2 and 72 hundredths what? Meters. The women are throwing 2 and 72 hundredths meters further than the men are. Questions? Okay, your assignment is on the board for you to begin. Page 34 and 35, 1 through 28 all. Page 34 and 35, 1 through 28 all.